Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard on ACTN. It's a pleasure. And first of all, let me say Happy New Year to Trinidad and Tobago and all my loyal viewers of this program. Actually, we were supposed to be doing a 2021 sports roundup on this show, but my guys were unable to be here with me, so we just made a twist and we have a special guest on today. But before we go into to the show, we want to say condolences to the friends and the families and the supporters of track and field with the untimely passing of Dion, Lando, our three-time Olympian who died in a car crash, I think it was last night. What I want to do now is that I received a tribute from the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, Brian Lewis. And I would like to share that with you, Trinidad and Tobago, as we mourn the loss of a great soldier in the track and field.
To have received such tragic and sad and shocking news, there are no words to describe this loss. Dion Lando has been an inspiration to many young people, not only in track and field, but in Trinidad and Tobago. His commitment to country, to his team, to his friends, to his family, and to his colleagues and to his sport has been enormous. He has been someone who, regardless of adversity and obstacles, he has persevered. He has been very committed to Team TTRU. I extend sincerest and the deepest condolences to his family, to his friends, to his colleagues, to his club in Trinidad and Tobago, Abilene. We at the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee has had a very close relationship with Dion over the years. And even to simply say the words, may he rest in peace, it's surreal. Dion Lando, gone too soon. Rest in eternal peace, young man. Only God knows.
Again, condolences to the friends and the family and supporters of Dion Lando. We lost a good one. Well, it's time for me to introduce my guests for tonight's program, and I have with me the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Rugby Union, Maria Thomas, just back from another one of her stints. And we're going to talk a bit about rugby, what happened in 2021, and as we look beyond 2022. Maria, Happy New Year and welcome back.
Happy New Year, George. It's good to be back.
It's good to have you in the house.
Yes, thank you.
You were elected president in 2021, sometime around September, or August, September?
May.
May. A year has ended. A lot of things has happened in rugby from the inception to now. You want to fill us in a bit? We're going to talk, the first part of the program, we're going to touch a bit about what happened last year. What are some of the things you implemented, what are the success stories? And we're going to take it from there.
Well, first, George, I just want to add the condolences coming from the TTRU to Dion Lando. It's such a tragic event, and
yeah, that was a shocker.
It's felt throughout the country. So I just want to add our condolences as well to that. And yes, George, I do have a very long list of things that I can fill you in on for what has happened in 2021 and what we're going to be doing moving forward in 2022.
Right. So where do we start? You won the election.
Yes, so the last time I was here was around the elections. And thank you so much for covering that, getting the news out there immediately and for accommodating especially with the restrictions, the opportunity for everyone on the executive to get some time on air so that people can see their faces and hear their voices. I think it's very important that the executive is known to the rugby community. So yes, that was the last time that I think we saw each other, actually, and a lot has happened since then. So as we discussed, the infrastructure was something very, very important for the new executive to set up, just to make sure that our framework can support, you know, succession planning, progress moving forward, and the adjustments that are necessary. Every 2 weeks, it seems we have to make a new adjustment. And so we began really looking at the administrative infrastructure, setting up a number of necessary committees, and making sure that the expertise are available to the union in all of the areas that we need to deal with, so that we can stop being so reactive and be a lot more proactive in everything that we do. And I'm very proud and grateful to everyone that has stepped forward. People continue to step forward, and we're seeing how much that's adding to our union because we have the work not only of the executive, but the management committee and the auxiliary committees as well, the affiliated bodies, and everybody coming together and offering, you know, what they're really good at is making us a stronger union.
So for the viewers and for the supporters of rugby, you know, take us through some of the things that were implemented and what has been successful so far.
Yeah, so of course the things behind the scenes are not always as exciting for people to hear about, but it has enabled us to do so much that is actually, you know, reaching more of the public eye and more of the community. So resuming national training was a big one. As we know, national teams need to have adequate preparation for international competition. When you're looking not only at the COVID restrictions, but player welfare in general, you need to be properly prepared. Otherwise, you know, you can incur injuries and just not have a proper showing at international tournaments. So one of the priorities, of course, was to make sure that we resumed the national training, and we did that in a staggered process. So we actually did an online form that people had to fill out. So there was a screening process. It began virtually, Zoom meetings. We had pods so that we didn't have crossover of athletes and technical teams. And so as we've continued training, we've been able to follow the research that was provided by World Rugby and also the guidelines from Rugby Americas North. And Delia Jordan Brown did a great job of making sure that everything also fit in with the national requirements of Trinidad and Tobago. So there was a lot that went into making sure that we'd be able to train, particularly around securing venues and just making sure that we could be consistent and offering our athletes the best opportunity to prepare.
I know you all selected a number of coaches for the different teams, and you had foreign coaches coming in, you know. Take us along that journey.
Sure. So some of the things that we've introduced with the national program in particular is Tag X, which we did discuss, and that has, you know, both a national component and a community component to it. Our under 19 15s team has already started implementing Tag X as part of their training program. And it means that Trinidad and Tobago flags are actually on an international leaderboard, and we didn't need to leave the country to do that. But I'll speak to that a little bit more probably later on, because we have some exciting plans coming up for Tag X as well. You referred to the coaches who came in, and one of the things that we looked at within the restrictions for development is that if we develop our coaches here, that's the best way to reach as many people as possible in Trinidad and Tobago. So we brought in some coaches from a development perspective to work with our coaches. Of course, within the restrictions, it was smaller numbers, but this actually benefited us. It meant that each coach could come talk about their personal strengths, the areas that they personally want to work on, get that face time, do that networking that is so important for, you know, having progress. And we've really seen the coaches stepping up. They did a great job in following restrictions, but also just being present and making the most of the opportunities that they were presented with. Yeah, it's definitely been exciting. So we had Robin McDowell come. We had Colton Carriega. They came together and they did a number of community coaching workshops. And the benefit for that we've definitely been seeing. We've seen continuity since their visit, not only in the additional programming that we've offered, but in the engagement from the community. And so people really taking those lessons and applying it and finding ways to move rugby forward. Following that visit, we had Scott Harland come from Rugby Americas North, and this was specifically around education and training. He worked alongside our national teams as well, but the important thing was, we really want to make sure that we are in the lead for the people that we have to work with our teams. And Trinidad and Tobago, we have amazing, amazing people here, and we can utilize that. So it was a refresher course for trainers and educators, referees, coaches, making sure that that level 2 bracket is filled. And we also had the first level 2 ICIR in immediate care in rugby course to be held in the Caribbean. And Delia Jordan Brown, she led that. Was it something to do with first aid or something like that? Yes, so it's first aid. So we did the first aid in rugby course as well, and that was well attended. And I'd also like to say Tobago's engagement has been amazing. So we make sure to try and get across to Tobago as much as we can when we have guests. In addition, Tobago has also been coming here. And so, I'd like to thank Courtney Doldren, who's been accommodating the athletes in Tobago and making sure that they have a place to stay when necessary for them to have an equal opportunity for the national programs, in addition to the satellite program that we have in Tobago. So yes, we had the first aid in rugby course, but we also had the level 2. And so this is where you have that, these are doctors, physiotherapists, these are medical professionals who take this course, and it means that they're specifically trained for rugby. And this adds to our player welfare, safeguarding, and anti-doping committee, so that we always have the capacity of medically trained professionals who are knowledgeable in rugby, so that we can give the best care possible to our athletes. Not just during tournaments, of course that is one of the times when we need to send people along with the teams, but also throughout our preparation, having someone who can just look at these little knocks and whatever, and so we can have preventative care and continuous care throughout our training.
So reflecting back on 2021, what would you say was your major, the Football Union major accomplishment? What stands out in 2021?
Well, there are a lot. Stephen Lewis also came down as well, and there was great continuity there with the coaches' visits. Of course, even globally, rugby is such a community that we're able to speak to each other and understand that, we really want to have growth and sustainable growth. And Stephen Lewis came down and worked specifically with the national teams, which was an exciting opportunity for them. And I think definitely for the coaches, but also for the athletes to have that connection, right? We are already somewhat isolated as an island, and of course, COVID adding to that. So it's really, really important that our athletes see the opportunities out there. And as was mentioned before, definitely, with players like John Pantor, Phil Jack, we did get some opportunities in 2021 for training camps and for competition, right? So that's something that's definitely major. For me, of course, it's really that framework, building that framework, and the people who are coming forward, and they're giving a lot. They really are contributing a lot to the sport. And I don't know if it's seen by everyone, but it's definitely going to be felt in the progress that we're going to make as a union, in our national teams and in our community teams as well. The management committee we've had excellent attendance, right? I mean, if I can
Well, I was just
excited about something like that.
I was just about to ask you about your leadership and your committee. How was the experience for you all, taking over and,
So the engagement has ramped up. As an executive committee, we meet twice a week, right? And that means that we can be more efficient in our meetings. It also means that, every few days we're checking in with each other, updating, getting the information. Things change so quickly right now, and just a checkpoint along the way to make sure that we're getting things done. it's been very, very effective as far as our implementation and just making sure that we are doing things in a timely manner. So then in addition to that, the management committee meets once a month. And of course, the executive is the executing arm of the management committee. The decisions are actually made by that management committee. And therefore, it is so important that we have attendance, that we have participation, that we have engagement, and that the administration of the clubs and affiliate bodies are actually getting and processing the information that's available, which means that they can make informed decisions for the direction of the union. And we've actually made some big decisions this year. The first was we resolved to change our name. And so this will make things much simpler, I think. We have removed football from our name. So we're no longer the Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Football Union. We are the Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Union. And when you look into branding and marketing, it's really important that everyone understands that we are rugby, right? And of course, there are reasons that football is in that name. It's a type of football, right? Just the way association football, American football, but we want to have rugby at the forefront. And along with that, we are the TTRU, so we can be true to all of our values and kind of just leverage the play on the acronym there. And we also have a new logo, which is going to be launching later this month. And that is very exciting. So that we'll be able to have Rugby Trinidad and Tobago, everything right there when you see our logo and our name.
Sounds good. We just have about a minute or something before we go on the first break, but I'm sure that in spite of all the goodies that you present to us here last year, there were some little challenges.
There are always challenges. As I mentioned, securing consistent venues for training was a challenge. Of course, everyone is adjusting in their personal lives as well. So as far as appointments and different roles, there has been some fluctuation in how we've filled those roles and who's been able to continue and who's stepped up and really helped out where it was necessary. Definitely challenging, but I think that when you have a challenge and you see how the community rises to meet that challenge, that is something that is
easier to handle.
Is so important, and it really it shows the strength and the tenacity of the union. We also had we've initiated a partnership with Scouts TT, and so that's something that's really exciting. I know that we're watching the clock here, and there's probably other things on my list that I'm trying not to look at too often, but I know that when we come back after the break, we'll get into some more of it.
Well said. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be chatting with the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Union.
Yes.
No more football. We'll be right back after the short break. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard, and I have with me the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football. Oh my. Now, the name has been changed, but from time to time, you're going to still hear people saying football because it's going to take a little while to adjust to the name. But the name now is Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Union, right? And that's the correct name. Maria, we spoke in the first part about 2021 and all the plans and what has happened so far. Now, as we look towards 2022 and beyond, right? What are some of the major plans that you all have? I don't know if you all have met as the committee has met yet for 2022.
Oh, yes.
Right. So you all formulate plans, and you know, what is it like for 2022? What can we, the supporters and viewers of rugby, look forward to in 2022?
Right. So we have both community and national programs.
Right. Let's start with the community. What's new for the community?
So within the community, as we mentioned, we have the rebranding. So later this month, we will actually have a full launch with that rebrand. And this is going to mean that we have different things available. We'll be bringing in things like balls with the new branding, merchandise, things that can help us to generate revenue, which is so important moving forward for all of our programming in rugby. And that's going to give us the leverage that we need to come forward as rugby in Trinidad and Tobago in a very strong way. And we're excited. The partnership with Scouts TT, they've actually offered to host our launch. and we're looking forward to having, you know, a mutually beneficial relationship with Scouts.
No, it's a Scouts Association?
Yes.
Okay.
Right? So from a community perspective, we have that. We also launched Ball in Hand. And this is a program where there's a registration process that anyone can check out on our social media, particularly Facebook, if you want to be able to click the link from the platform. And there's a form to fill out, just has some information to register. And we're doing multiple cycles, giving out balls into the community.
Yeah, but ball in hand, it's explain it for...
Ball in hand, we want to put a ball in your hand in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we see that we can't have community sport. Our clubs haven't been able to train. You can't just take a ball out to the savannah and play. But what we can do is make these balls available to people who register, and then using virtual platforms, we've had different athletes from clubs, national athletes. We have some interns who've been doing an amazing job working on this, and they put together just little exercises that you can do at home. Just ball handling.
So you must be involved in the exercises and things in order to get the ball. I can't say I want a ball to put on
No,
scoreboard
it's ball
set.
in hand. It's to get that involvement, right? It's so that, because how else, if you're not part of the national program, are you going to even, you need a rugby ball. That's a key piece of equipment. And it's not equipment that is that readily available in Trinidad and Tobago. And so this is within the community, but also for anyone who wants to get into rugby. You don't have to be a rugby player to apply for this.
Okay.
All right, and you get the ball, there are different exercises, so you have some guidance on what to do at home, but also there's that connection within the group, so you can reach out and say, how are your things doing? Maybe, I don't know, make a TikTok video, do some interactive stuff, make it fun for social media.
So this has already started?
Yes, this actually launched in December.
And how was the
Excellent. We surpassed the first set of balls that we wanted to give out.
Okay.
So that first set is out. We have more to come, so no one has missed out entirely. We've actually paced this to make sure that it can be something that is continuous. We don't know how long it will be before we can return to community sport. But we want to make sure that that connection, that community, that camaraderie can continue. And that simply means, what is the most basic piece of equipment that we can provide? And then how do we keep in touch with people, check in on people? How's it going with the ball? It gives you a reason to reach out to someone and say, all right, let's do a quick video. Let's see this. Did you practice with the ball today? How's it going? Within the household, if there are siblings, they would obviously be able to play together as well. And just to make sure that we get rugby out into the community, because the traditional ways that we would have done that with caravans and events and things like that, we are not doing due to the restrictions.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of the teams have started back training. Some are preparing for tournaments, you know, later this year. Tell us about those.
Well, yes, all of our national teams are preparing for competition, which I believe today we are 1 month out from the RAN Sevens, which is taking place in Mexico City.
Okay.
And so this is something that we've been working on, obviously, since last year as well. There was a competition in Turks and Caicos we weren't able to attend simply because the logistics around travel, vaccination, how long we had been training as well to make sure that our player welfare load passport was, you know, that we had sufficed what was necessary to prepare our athletes. And we've been focused now on this Mexico tournament, which is hugely important. It is a qualifier for the Central Caribe Games. It's a qualifier for Commonwealth Games. It's also a qualifier to the pathway for World Cup. And we have 3 teams that we have expressed interest that we will be going. That's the senior men, the senior women, and the under 18 men. And this is all for sevens rugby, the sevens format of the game. The under 18 women's category was deferred. So we're looking forward to that happening possibly in June or July of this year. Right now, the teams have not yet been finalized. We've really built out our selection process. The selections committee has been doing an incredible amount of work with the technical directors and the scouts and working along, getting that feedback from the coaches. So what they're providing is a lot of support for coaches. And of course, this happens in all sports. There's always someone who wants to question the integrity of a decision, why an athlete was chosen. And so one of the things that the selections committee has done a lot of work with is actually building up that infrastructure that documentation that empowers coaches to demonstrate the reason for their selection, right? There are principles of selection, right? So you want to be able to go through, and there's different areas. So there's your fitness, there's your rugby IQ, there's how you contribute to the team, many different things that go in. A team sport, of course, it's not as simple as how fast can you run 100 meters. There are so many different things that can be quite difficult. It's a big job that coaches have in selecting a team. And this support that they have is very important. And so when the teams are selected, there's also that documentation, that transparency behind the selections, which supports the coaches.
But I guess funding will play a major part in preparing these teams to leave our shores. Have you all reached the point where you have received that funding, or you're still working towards?
Well, we have the subsidy from Rugby America's North.
Okay.
And so that we definitely have to work with, and we've put that into our budgets. We've also applied to sport. Sport has also assigned an officer specifically to rugby.
Okay.
So this is
That's
amazing.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, she's absolutely wonderful. She's in communication all the time. She follows up on the emails, any sort of, sometimes you'll fill out a document and something would be omitted, or there'd be a small thing that was left out. But then by the time it gets caught, it's actually put you really far behind.
Yeah.
And so she gets back to us and lets us know just some more information here, whatever it is we need to do. And Curtis Nero, of course, has been working really hard and really working as well with the managers of the teams for them to understand the process that we're going through with sport for the application of funds, and of course also with TTOC as the Commonwealth Games as well, because it's Commonwealth qualifier. And we are excited to be preparing our youth teams for Commonwealth Youth Games, which, to our knowledge, is still happening in Trinidad and Tobago in 2023. So all now we are preparing to make sure that we can be excellent hosts for that tournament.
So from where you sit now, you are totally comfortable and satisfied with the direction that rugby is going right now?
I would say that my expectations have been surpassed.
Okay.
Right? Our athletes, so many of them were doing work at home. They really kept up with things. They've taken on, I think they've taken their personal responsibility to another level as far as how they should come prepared for a national team. Right? It's not show up and have the national team teach you to play rugby, or have the national team get you to be a fit athlete. You should be coming with that already.
Okay.
Right? And we're seeing more and more how athletes are taking that initiative to make sure that they are a product that we need, right? Rather than us having to create that, which is important, particularly when we don't have the clubs and community playing, because it's much less accessible to get that experience. One of the things that we're looking at as well, we had a lot of success with some of the international opportunities, and so we're in discussions right now about training camps that are happening either in the US or in Canada, maybe some other option as well.
For the local players?
For local players, yes, but these will be prolonged training camps, so they would apply, and once they get through the application process, they would be able to participate in the training camp. They would be released for national duty if they're required for the national team, but they'll have a chance to get the training experience, also game experiences, which is one of the things that we can't do right now. Besides, within our national program, they need to get diverse competition. And it's very, very exciting to think that, we'll be able to send more athletes out to get that experience and bring that back to contribute to our national program.
How is the union protecting the athletes from the COVID-19? What structure that you all have put in place to make sure that your athletes remain safe at all times?
So within our national program, everyone is vaccinated first and foremost. And that's the first step that we can. And
nobody could slip through the cracks?
Everyone had to submit their vaccination. It's all on record, right? For safety, also, if you're in the national program, the reason that we have the allowance to train is because we are going to be doing international competition, and you're not eligible to do anything international without a vaccination.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, of course, as I mentioned, we have utilized virtual platforms for meetings. So if we didn't have to be physically together, then we used virtual means so that we didn't expose ourselves unnecessarily, even to each other. Of course, the protocol, thermometers. I drive around with one in my car. I was traveling and they were like, what's this thing that's shaped like, I said, oh, it's a thermometer gun, but yeah. To make sure that we're testing temperatures. The management of the teams does an excellent job of recording that. And sanitizer, masks, everything that we can do to make sure that everyone is safe. Contact tracing, as well. We did have a pause on national training, and as soon as there's any information or indication that there could have been an exposure, then we've just shut down, because we cannot afford to take the risk of exposing our team. We don't have the luxury of being able to go into a bubble. We don't get to go into a camp. We haven't been able to get into the national facilities to do that. Our players they're volunteers essentially, right? They have to work their jobs, et cetera, and we're not in a position to say, hey, you're training in the national program, we're putting you up at this venue, this is where training is, and to lock it down, which we would love to be able to do, especially ahead of competition. But within what we are able to do, we've definitely done the most. Dr. Delia Jordan Brown, as I mentioned, she worked on our protocol, and she's also in the loop. So whenever there are questions, our communication is always open. So if anytime there's a situation, we know exactly who we need to refer to make sure that we're doing not only what's necessary for national regulations, but we want to take that a step further, because we really need to protect our athletes.
How has the supporters or even the players, how have they accepted the new committee and the new direction with all that's taking place with rugby? What is the feedback you're getting?
Well, one of the motivating factors for me, even to run, is the feedback from athletes, from coaches, from enthusiasts, from people in the rugby community. And that has continued. It hasn't waned at all. We get a lot of feedback. We get support. Definitely, the feedback has been incredibly supportive. And as I mentioned before, people saying, hey, you know what? I like doing commentary. How can I do this? I think that if we had a way to get some more video of rugby activities, how can I contribute to that? And it means we have more people available for those connections and to link people. Networking has been so key, right? Everything filters through the management committee, the executive committee. It's organized. There's always, through committees, there's points of contact to make sure that, you know, we don't have redundancies or we are operating with the necessary information. But it can't come down to one person. It can't come down to five people, right? And so we're really building that out. You know, we have our marketing and sponsorship committee. We're entering into an exciting partnership now so that we can start packaging rugby so we can show everyone the product that we have, right? That's something that you have experts doing, right? People that can seek out sponsorship and do those sort of things, people that can handle the media side of things. As we mentioned, COVID-19, player welfare, training loads. It's a different committee and different experts that deal with that.
When you talk about the committee, I know that sometimes people see that's the president or just one person, but if you want to quickly just mention the names of the people so we can know who these people are. So within the executive committee, we have the vice president is Don Sucre, the secretary is Rochelle Tracy Panton, treasurer is Curtis Nero, and assistant secretary treasurer is Kenwin Davis. And one thing I can definitely say for the executive team, as I like to call us, is that we're very much involved. We're very accessible to the national programs, but also to the clubs and the community programs. We've had, as I mentioned before, really good engagement from the management committee, and that is then the executive committees of our clubs and affiliated bodies, to be able to provide the support that they need for their success, because their success translates into us being successful as a union. It's not necessarily to dictate what that looks like, right? We have been very open to saying, what is it that you want? What do you want your rugby to look like? And how do we give you the tools to build that? TagX is one of the tools that we can use for revenue generation that will be controlled by the clubs that decide to take it on. Well, I know we have to take another break, but when we come back, I know you made a couple of trips so far, so we want to hear about the trips. What are the benefits of those trips? We also want to hear about the target that you spoke about, right? You said you would have explained a bit more about that. Mm-hmm. And what's your ultimate goal for the rest of your term in rugby? So keep it in mind. We'll be right back after the short break. Welcome back, viewers. You are viewing Scoreboard on ACTN, and we are talking rugby with the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Union. Maria, I know that you are just back from the Hollywood Beach 5 tournament. We're going to touch about that on that, but I also want to talk about the Minister of Sports recently said that it appears that sports will be given the green light maybe in a couple of weeks' time. Have your plan already implemented as when that has happened, how you're going to be hitting the ground running?
Yes, so this comes back to that discussion we were having about the infrastructure and the framework. Mm-hmm. So we have always taken this into conversation. The nature of our sport is such that we have to be prepared to get into the sport somewhat gradually, mm-hmm. right? And that infrastructure has been in place. We've been ready for that, and so very excited to see that announcement, because it simply means, we just have to say, all right, there's a green light on that. Mm-hmm. We have already met with the clubs to discuss TAGX, so mm-hmm. they've had an initial contact point, an initial conversation. When they find out how many people they have interested in coming out to play and those kind of logistics, they are able to say, all right, does TAGX work for us? TAGX, for those who don't know, is a non-contact offering of rugby. So non-contact not only for no COVID contact, mm-hmm. but also just for preparing your body for the style of play, mm-hmm. right? Not everybody gets to jump straight into full contact games, mm-hmm. as many of us had our beginnings in rugby. Mm-hmm. And again, the revenue generation is very important there as well. TAGX is something that's run in tournament format. So it also means you can say, all right, let's focus towards this tournament. This is the training, et cetera, et cetera. When are people available? And then you have the event, and then you say, okay, was it successful? Let's look it over. And then you have another one happening again. Mm-hmm. We are a very big union. We've got 15 clubs. And not just expect that everyone's going to be able to show up with 3 15s teams or 4 15s teams and be ready to jump into the league. We need to build into it, and we need to build into it, I think, in a way that is realistic and gives you, work, reward, right? Very excited to be able to start implementing that. As you mentioned, well, before I move on, because we've already introduced it in the national program mm-hmm. as a training tool, yeah. we are looking to locally host a TAGX tournament. And I think this will be a good introduction and a chance for the clubs to see what it actually looks like being played by the national teams. Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to help in their decision making. And it also means another opportunity for our national teams to be on an international leaderboard. And I think this is very important, not only for exposure of our athletes for scouting purposes, but also just, the excitement of the competition. And it also gives a lot more leverage for our sponsors, because we can promote our sponsors equally with all of the things that go into that mm-hmm. TAGX platform. So that's one thing that is ready to go. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, I just returned from Hollywood Beach, mm-hmm. and so I went there kind of to shadow all of the things that happen in a tournament. Yeah. Right? I think it's very important that the entire executive and also committee members, even if it's not specifically your role or responsibility, you have to have a certain level of competency. Mm-hmm. You have to have a certain level of understanding of what goes into it. Mm-hmm. Like how many city buildings do you have to visit? How many permits do you need? How many fire officers do you need? All these different things that people don't consider when they go to a tournament. They're used to, okay, paid my registration, ready to play, right? The draw for the tournament, whatever accommodations are necessary for the teams that are participating, merchandise, because that's a great way to generate revenue at a competition. So it was an excellent learning experience, definitely had a lot of insight, and it was great because it was beach rugby, because I think that's something that is another offering of the sport that we can be very successful with in Trinidad and Tobago. We have beaches, and 5 players are on the pitch per team at a time for beach rugby.
I remember some time ago I did attend one at Miaro.
Yes, Miaro hosted, and Royal Lions has also hosted successfully beach rugby. So I think that's something that would be great to get into, again, for returning to play, smaller numbers. I also played on the Golden Girls team, and we were there with our whole 5 players and no subs. So it was definitely a fun experience and great opportunity. And by the time we played our final game, we were doing roll on, roll off, because it was pretty open tournament as far as if you needed subs, people could show up if they wanted to play and were part of the tournament. And so we had, probably we went from 5 to, I don't know, 15 or 20 players that were available for our final game. So it was really, really nice, because it was an opportunity for people who maybe had finished their games on their teams to just come out, get a little run, and, for people to catch their breath.
I wanted to ask you before the program ended, now that in the president's seat, if you miss the actual action on the field, and when will somebody see Maria on? But we didn't see her abroad, so
I don't know if my performance was very noteworthy.
Are we going to be seeing you locally anytime?
The thing is, it's a decision I had to make. As Secretary of the Union, I made it very clear that my priority was playing. Okay. I want to play. I want to be a player. But if we don't have the infrastructure, if we don't have those connections, if the work isn't being done so that the players have the opportunities that are available to play, then there isn't playing. So I feel as though there's a bit of a decision that has to be made. Do you put in the work so that athletes can have the experience that you want to have? Or do you try to have that experience without the infrastructure that's necessary here? Right? When you look at where do athletes go? Do athletes return to their home unions, right? I want to make sure that athletes can access these opportunities. Athletes, coaches, referees, medics, everybody, commentary. There are so many areas within sport that you can develop professionally.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And it's important that we in Trinidad and Tobago have access to these opportunities. It is also important that we have an infrastructure and a union that is going to be one that you want to come back to, so that we're not just exporting our best players, or exporting the people that know how to do, run tournaments, or technical directors, etc., things like this, right? We have to make sure that we set ourselves up for success, and that success can happen from Trinidad and Tobago.
I know you had a very long list, so I'm sure there are many things that you still would like to share with us.
Yes, there's so much that we've been doing, even with the media and stuff. I'm excited because we've had some assistance from different media departments. McDougal Rugby is great with that, so we're looking forward to being able to send out some stuff with that. Apologize to anyone who's been looking on social media trying to find things. Because of the rebranding, we want to make sure the new brand is on everything, and we're waiting for that launch. So don't worry, everyone is going to get tons of information soon. In addition to those things, the announcement, as you said, from Minister Cudjoe, really, really good. I think that sport is so important for the overall health of our nation. The announcement with the beaches was a big thing. Sport is a logical thing to have open. I think that we understand how important it is that we do it in a safe way, how important vaccination and the role that plays. We've been able to pilot a lot of strategies with the national team training, and we can transfer that information to our community sport. All right? Even just your physical health, your mental health, all of these things, that strengthens you so that, whatever comes, you're in a better position to be prepared for it, whether it's COVID, whether it's another variant, whether it's something different entirely. Right? We have to be prepared now that we are coming from a place of good health, right? And that we are prepared to be proactive and not just reactive, as I mentioned. Because if you're reacting right now, by the time you figured out the first reaction, there's something new to react to. And I think that we can take control of the direction that we want to move in by being prepared. We say, all right, cool. No contact, we have tag X, right? We can have contact, reduced numbers, we have beach rugby. That's outside, it's by the water, it's by the ocean, you know? The ball in hand. Can't get together at all? Fine. Here's a ball in your hand, in your house. Send us a video, right? We're not taking no, we're not stopping rugby, and we're just gonna continue to find ways forward and ways that even when restrictions are removed, ball in hand is awesome, right? Let's get more balls around Trinidad and Tobago. Let's have everybody have a ball in their house so that playing rugby is as natural as playing football.
That brings me to this question, because a lot of you over here on the ground that some sports have lost, you know, athletes, you know, due to the COVID, because they're not playing, there's no avenue. Are you all in a position to say if you all have lost rugby players, or if you have been managed to maintain and keep that core together?
We definitely have a core that stayed together. I would say this is not any official data collection, but based on the feedback that I get, we're actually getting people coming back to rugby. It may not be in a capacity of playing, but as I said, like that player welfare element, the safeguarding elements, people who love rugby but didn't know how to stay involved beyond when they were playing. This is something that shows the health and the strength of our union. Because as much as you want to say, let's get new people all the time, those people need to learn from someone. They want to tap into a community and understand a community that exists already. And so when you can bring people together, like enthusiasts, the clubs, club administration, like I said, the Golden Girls, right? We administer rugby, you know? I think one of us had not played rugby for 11 years, right? You know, we have not had the opportunity to play. And we took it there, and that's a perfect example where you say, listen, what's the bare minimum? 5? We can make this happen. Our kit, amazing, right? You know, Golden Girls is very timely, you know, rest in peace, Betty White. But we went, and it makes our work fun. It makes us remember, hey, this is why we're doing this. What did we need to get on the pitch? All right, how do we make sure that our athletes have that as well? And I think it's always important that at a governance level, that athlete-centered approach is there to make things better for athletes, but also for those in governance, those in administration, those doing work. There's a huge difference. They say find something you love and do that as your profession, right? Well, how do you love what you do? Rugby is really fun. It's exciting. No one should be volunteering or even working in rugby and unable to find the joy and the love of the sport and what they do within it.
I know that rugby, you all had rugby in schools, right? How did you, well, that program must have been got affected because there was no school.
Yeah.
Were there anything in place to try to keep the students, you know, occupied, like with the TAGX or whatever, ball in hand?
Some of the school teams actually stayed very active on social media.
Okay.
So that's a huge help. The schools union is an affiliated body, so it's not actually the TTRU that controls what happens in schools.
Okay.
It's the schools union. And so in particular, Don Sucre, our vice president, has been very supportive of finding out what does the schools union need, what direction do they want to move in. There's some coaches and parents as well who have continued to stay in communication and put forward ideas. So we're looking forward, especially now that school, you know, has resumed, to seeing what is the schools union going to look like. They need to have an election, they need to re-elect officers, and they need to, you know, revise and see what it is that their, you know, constitution and their mandate is going to look like, and they will submit that to the union, and it'll be reviewed by the management committee, and whatever support is needed, we're ready to give.
So 2022 looks like it's going to be a successful year, barring any more, you know, restrictions or anything with the COVID, and you all are on top of everything from where you and your executive sit.
I won't say everything. There's always room to do more. There's always something that maybe isn't in front of you and you don't think of. But my confidence is there because, you know, within the community, the executive is a phone call away. You can call the secretariat. The secretariat has been amazing in, you know, keeping up with our correspondence, following up. They meet with us once a week. So as I said, we meet twice weekly, once as the executive and once as the executive with the secretariat. Our meetings with management have been going great. In between, the communication is really, really good. And so, yeah, having a team that's strong and working together, having the committees that have really taken off and taken ownership of their role, the information that we need to have, it comes to us. So it's not the executive trying to think of what we don't know that we don't know, right? And then that networking is there. So if there's something, George, you can say, hey, you know, I need some material. I can find you material anytime, right? And it's just to get people pointed in the right direction, and that builds the union.
I want to give you the opportunity to send out greetings to your executive and to the sporting community of rugby, and give them a short New Year's greeting message from the union.
Well, thank you, George. So yes, to the executive team who I met with this morning before coming on the show, hello again, and thank you guys so much for the incredible work that you do. I know that there are a lot of times when, whether it's for meetings or for other development, I have been away, and I don't have to worry because you guys are making sure that things happen all the time, whether I'm present or not. And the communication that we have is so important. I think that we set a good example for the union, and to the management committee, thank you so much. Your faces or names up on those little Zoom boxes, it's so important to know that the work that the executive is doing is being received, and that you're giving us the feedback we need so that we're working in a way that is productive and helpful for you. It has been a hard run. We don't know if we're at the end of it yet, but we're definitely setting up things that whatever the future brings, we're prepared to embrace it together and to continue in rugby together.
Well, Maria, on behalf of myself and ACTN, we want to say, you know, a Happy New Year, and we want to wish the union all the best as you go forward. We are anxiously awaiting your launch to see your new logo, what it's going to look like. But again, we want to thank you and your executive for a great job so far, and we know that we can look forward to greater things in rugby for 2022.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful speaking to you again, George, and appreciate that you continue to make time for the promotion of rugby in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, viewers, we have come to the end of the first edition of Scoreboard for the year 2022. We want to thank you all again for staying with us throughout last year. We look forward to having you in our company for 2022. Again, condolences to the athletics fraternity with the passing of Dion Lando. We extend condolences to his family, to the friends, supporters, and everybody. We lost a good soul here. May he rest in peace. See you next week. Enjoy your week ahead, and be blessed.